Hello, this is John McAllister, and today on my video podcast, Me and Jesus, the segment on Me and Jesus, and my guest is one of the best football coaches in Ohio, best high school coach in one of the best high school coaches in Ohio. He coaches at Marion Local. He's won 12 state championships in 24 years. That's not too bad. But he also has another side of him that he's a very solid Christian. And I can tell you, like most people, we all make mistakes, but he's going to talk quite a bit about Jesus, the effect that Jesus has on him and on his life. But of course, we'd have to do a little bit about football because he's just an excellent coach. Please sit back and watch my video podcast with Tim Goodwin from Marion Local High School. I am so excited today because I have a football coach, football, the sport I love, and he's a very successful football coach, but he's also, I've read comments he's made. I think he teaches Bible study. And I read the advertisements sometime on Facebook about church. So we get a hold of Tim Goodwin, and you got to tell the story, okay? First of all, I would tell you he is a highly successful football coach, and a lot of jealousy, I think, because he's won something like 12 state championships, and that's huge. So the football in me says that's huge. And I remember talking to him. He doesn't remember this years ago, and say, "Do you ever have any inclination or anything about maybe moving up, going to a higher level job at Division I, Division II?" And honestly, he said, "Well, yeah, sometimes, but winning state championships is just as fun at this level as in Division I. There are state championships." I thought that was really good, by the way. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's Friday afternoon. I'm actually the high school principal here at Marion, so I just got all the kids on the bus, and now the office is empty, and I shut the door. Now I'm talking to you.
And you tell your teachers no discipline problems on Fridays, right?
Yeah, and the kids would say no homework.
Yeah, no homework. Okay, tell us about football. Originally, you've been at Marion Local for how many years?
I've completed 24 years as head coach at Marion Local.
And then where were you before that?
Prior to that, I was an assistant coach and math teacher at Bluffton High School.
Okay.
I took that job right out of college. I went to the University of Findlay. That was right up there. As a matter of fact, me and my roommate, we continued to live together that first year anyway, when I was commuting to Bluffton. So good times.
That's really good. And you're still a young man. Okay, I'd have to say something about your dad. How's your dad doing? Bill Goodwin.
Yeah, he's doing great. He's turned 80 this January. Very healthy. He and mom, get along well, and really have made it kind of their purpose in this part of their life to invest in their grandkids.
Oh,
And they just do so much with my kids and my nieces and nephews, and that's just really where they're pouring their heart these days.
That's really good. And I remember, of course, I'm still friends with Spike Berry, and those guys were crazy. I was a young coach back then, but they were crazy and smart football guys and great guys, fun. I mean, and there was another guy, the guy at Arlington was involved with that. I forget his name right now, but those guys are fun. Okay, we talk about football, and what I really want to get into is walk with Jesus, me and Jesus, and that's what I do now. What do you mean the statement when you were a young guy? And this isn't so much Jesus yet. I didn't know what I didn't know when you first started. What was that? What's that mean?
Well, you're just young and naive. I think, John, you think you have a lot of answers, and you think you have things figured out, but as you go through life, and I think I was probably talking about being a young coach at that time.
Right.
I really I didn't even know the question, let alone think I had the answer to the question. And thankfully, I've had a lot of great mentors in my life, and a lot of people, are just a phone call away, and obviously number one in that is my father, and
Right.
Stan Wilker here at Marion Local. So I think that's what I meant by that.
Okay. And then the other one I've read I thought was, and it's so true, the health of your team is the health of the community. What obviously it means a strong community. Okay. Now, how are you involved with the community away
Well,
from education?
yeah, what I meant by that was, just in particular football, just
Right.
the amount of sacrifice and hard things that you have to do.
Right.
I just think we're in a unique area here, that the kids are still willing to do some of that. Just for example, you have a good athlete, but you have a need, and you want him to move positions, that they'll willingly do it here. I my wife and I, we live in this community. It's a unique community. There's not a lot of things right here that um, I guess I can run into people at, in terms of businesses. There's a few, but we go to church in New Bremen. We're not Catholic, so we're one of the rare Protestants around here. So we attend Faith Alliance in New Bremen, but um, Marion Local is a great community, and the kids, not only do they have parents that guide them, but they have grandparents, and
Right.
they go to school with cousins,
Right.
and obviously aunts and uncles then are right around.
That's good. I used to kid Tim Beckman all the time and say St. Henry was the biggest Catholic school in your area, but and joke with him. Okay, let's talk about me and Jesus. Where did it, and you don't have to give testimony, coach, so much as where did it start with you?
Okay. Well, my parents, we grew up going to church, and doing the youth group activities. And I listen to people's testimonies, and it's kind of interesting, because at times I think you're almost jealous of people and their stories, if they had a big conversion moment, when they were older. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
John, you
I
know,
agree.
um, and I really don't have that story, of just a big aha moment where, all of a sudden I was going this way, and now, I committed my life to Jesus, and now I'm going this way. I can't point to a moment like that.
Neither can I, by the way. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of us out there like that, and so I grew up doing all that stuff, and um, your parents are pouring into you. They're trying to instill the love of Jesus into you, and bring you up with biblical principles. But at some point, it has to become you,
Yeah,
and that's what we all go through, right? And
sure.
so I've my road is winding, but one thing, after you asked me this, and by the way, when you asked me this, is like, number one, it caught me off guard, uh, because when I saw John McAllister on my phone, I thought, well, I don't really have a hot recruit right now. Uh, and then when you asked me to talk about this, I think all of us kind of swallow hard, or a lot of us do, that, if we're not in ministry, because
Right.
I'm not perfect. And I've said things that were were not good, and done things that were not good, and I'm not proud of. But you know what, I've always felt like the nudge of the Spirit inside, pointing me back or towards the Bible, and my relationship with Christ. And for that, I am very grateful, because it's always interesting to me, like, just people's hearts, and how people can have similar backgrounds, grow up in the same house, and it seems like one person may become hard-hearted towards spiritual uh,
Right.
conversations or thinkings, and me, I'm just so grateful that for whatever reason, I've always felt the nudge of the Holy Spirit, and in my life, obviously, my faith had to become my own. And I would really point when I started attending Faith Alliance in New Bremen. They just point you in the Bible a lot, and when the Bible is such an interesting book, just looking at it as a literature piece, and the whole story, and how it connects from predictions and prophecies, to things that occurred thousands of years later, is just fascinating. And you know
We have the same weaknesses. We have the same personalities as those guys back then. We can, Matthew and Mark and David, and they're all the same characteristics that we have in 2023. That's what's amazing to me. The same problems and issues and stuff.
yeah,
That's
you're right, because I'm in a Wednesday night Bible study, and we have this pattern. We read a section of scripture, and then we say, what does this say about God or His plan, and we talk about that, and what does this say about people? And you're right. It's like, well, we're still stupid. We're still, you know,
we still do those things.
still do the dumbest things. Like, do we ever learn?
How do you relate? How do you use Jesus then as a principle? Do you see what I'm saying? The fairness, the structure, the discipline with kids, relating to kids. You don't talk about it, but when does he help you, Jesus?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And with all the noise, in the world, and just the strife and the tension, and just I like I said, I've screwed up so many times in my life, and I
Right.
just feel so grateful that and as a matter of fact, we're reading Galatians now in my group, and just the whole accepting that grace through faith, and it is not by works. And if I have been the benefit of an amount of grace that's unbelievable, I need to share that. And
Yeah.
yeah, we have times where we have to work some things out, and you try to make it a teaching moment, but I try to extend grace to the teachers and to the students, and try to model that.
Right. And that's being under control and things like that. And that you can really, you're a light, your light shines and things like that. What about, how do you do that? I'm interested. How do you do that with being so successful in football? And I don't, if you could, but it's football, because the connotation of football. How do you rely on Jesus in that situation?
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of the same principles we were just talking about. You know, we we don't talk about things a whole lot in terms of
Right.
spiritual discussions, but every once in a while it does come up, and life smacks you or one of the team, the teammates, and so you kind of bring it up and talk about it. But it's just the fact that, and unless you die, or yeah, as a football team, unless you're turning in the pads, the next day, like, this is not a fatal mistake.
Right.
We're gonna learn from this and grow from this, and we're gonna correct it, and we're gonna, I've heard talks before about your true north or whatever. Is like, well, this is not who we are as a team. Whether we just had an undisciplined moment, and we just went off the rails as a team, and maybe we got unsportsmanlike conduct or something that's very uncharacteristic. Like, let's readjust. Like, what are we about? What's our guiding principles? And I think there's a lot of overlap there.
Well, see, I think it's so much just by you're an example, and you don't have to. I mean, that mistakes always happen, sins always happen, but the fewer of them happen if you are a solid person, and coaches, I think, are such. No matter what they say, they are such leaders, such examples and stuff. I've been around coaches in games and in conversation. They F-bomb every other 5 words, and they call the kids names, and I don't see how you can be, how you can do that without being a good, solid Christian. I don't think you do that stuff. Does that make sense?
And at times, I stumble. I stumble, and you have to readjust. You have to apologize. But I think it goes back to just, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but, like extending that grace and saying there and giving kids second chances. Like, I think that's one thing that we do. Like, we're going to, bench a kid, so to speak, or take him off the field if there's things going on that need corrected, but they're going to get another chance.
Right.
And I think that's just like it is in life. Like I said, you're going to get another chance. Are you going to, learn from your mistakes, apologize? Or are you going, in the context of, the spiritual world, are you going to ask for forgiveness, and keep, working towards the redemption piece?
Coach, when I was early as a head coach, and this actually happened, we had the rule, no taking the Lord's name in vain. Now, cussing sometimes is different to me, but the Lord's name in vain, and my kids were good at it. I mean, good at not at doing that. Well, there's a play, and I wasn't that young. There was a play that didn't go well in practice, and I went to under my breath almost, GD.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They got a circle. They said, Coach, I did 15 grass drills, up and down. And, I faked it, but I didn't say it after that. I'll tell you that. You were talking about
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been there, John. And you just be honest with your team, just like you were, we're all human.
And they learned from that. Okay, it's really good. Let's finish a little bit here. How do you personally handle winning and losing with Jesus? Does that make sense to you? How do you handle that? Well, does winning, do you thank him? How is he with you there? How do you handle that?
Right. And we've had some talks about this at my Wednesday small group.
Okay, good.
We have. And does the Lord care about winning and losing? And we've kind of sparked debates about that, and I think that obviously I don't at least I don't think there's anything specific in the Bible that would point one way or another on that.
Right.
I personally think that if believers care about something, that there's going to be some sort of God thing in there. Because, I think most of us believe that God can use good things and bad things for his glory, right?
Right, for sure.
Yeah. And, myself, I try to um, just remember that. And it's like, when anything good happens, whether it's sometimes publicly or not,
Right.
um, I use that to point someone to God's glory.
That's really good. I think that he wants you to give your maximum effort. And if that means winning, then that's so be it. And if you've given it, I don't think he's going to kick you under the bus. But I think, that is so true. Tim, what can we end with? What do you want to people to know about Tim Goodwin?
I think I am the product of of my surroundings, and I've been so fortunate. And I think some of it was luck and some of it wasn't. And I try to latch on to people that I want to be like, and I want to follow their lead. And so I was just thinking of some names um, that have really been instrumental, in my life. And obviously my parents, like I said. Um, and one other thing, if I can just backtrack, like I think one of the moments that I had that had a big impact on my outlook on life, and just what's important and where I should focus most of my energy, or at least a consistent amount, is when I won my first state title. I was relatively young, but still I had planned and prepared a long, long time to be a football coach. And after winning that first state title, you know what, John? Like, it just wasn't what I was expecting. Like, um, nothing really changed in my life. Whatever struggles I had
Yeah,
going into the game or the playoffs or the season, they were still there.
yeah.
And it wasn't like I said, all of a sudden everything was just okay. And it just made me think of, like, winning a state title is not it. It's fun, and we work hard at it, and I love it because the team aspect, and you have, you know, 70 guys on a team, 10 coaches, and the rest of the community, and we're all pulling in the same direction. That's such a neat thing to be a part of. But when you get to the top, you just realize, like, this isn't it. This isn't the meaning of life. And it 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 really it had a big effect on my outlook. And like I said, I think that was a moment where the worldly stuff, um, just it it just isn't it, John. There's more to life than that. I'm firmly convinced of that.
Well, Miss Coach Goodwin, I think that's a really good one to end on. Okay, that is so good. And there's more to it than winning a trophy. It's obviously just what you said, and that's really great. Well, Tim, I really appreciate you taking some time here on a Friday after school, and you being the principal. But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I didn't go through, the people that had an impact, so you
Go
have
ahead.
to just
Go ahead.
cut that part out. But yeah,
Go ahead.
that really was a big moment. Just like, whatever this life is about, winning football games is not it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about. Give me a couple people that you give a lot of credit to.
When I was at Bluffton, there was a guidance counselor and football coach there named Don Leader. He actually did a lot of work with Teens for Christ in the Findlay area. After I had left Bluffton there, he kind of switched careers, but he had a big impact on me, and really took a big interest in me when I was a young coach. And just, you talk about a solid guy, that is not going to waver from his belief that, Christ is his savior, that is him. And he was such a great example to me, in my young 20s, as a football coach. So he was definitely a big one. And, since then, like Andy Lynch, who was in the Lima media area.
Right. I remember.
Yeah, but also was part-time or FCA director for our region. And we have an FCA here at Marion Local, and I'm involved in that. And that is such a neat opportunity for us to share with the kids and let them share. And I've been motivated by kids so many times in that group, and just how bold and faithful they are. But Andy has had a big impact on my life, just encouraging me so many times. And now my current pastor, Trent Flederjohn, just kind of the same way. As a matter of fact, I just got a text from him a couple minutes ago inviting me to a kind of a men's deal tonight. So just some people that have poured into me, and I would encourage everyone to, like find people like that, you can just tell, the people that are rocks that aren't going to waver, and, latch onto them and follow them.
Really, Tim, I really appreciate you being on the program. Okay.
Yeah, this is really neat, John. I did not know you were about this, but this is cool.
Well, I do the football stuff too, but I like this because it's something totally different for me.
Right.
Totally different. No sports, and it's good. Thanks, Tim. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I look forward to more of your episodes.